All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Sita Getchus. I'm the Admissions Recruitment Specialist here at NYU Silver. I am super excited to be here with you tonight, as well as a number of our current Masters in Social Work students. I'm going to have them go around and introduce themselves with their name, pronouns, program, and tell us where you're from.
Hi, my name is Leah Abay. My pronouns are she, he, and they. All of them are fine. I'm in the 2-year program, and I'm from Akron, Ohio originally.
Hi, my name is Shana John-Cortes. I am in the extended program at the Silver School of Social Work. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Anyone is fine, and I'm from Queens, New York.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tavleen. I'm from India. I'm a second-year student in the 2-year MSW program, but in the 5-semester 2-year program.
Hi, I am Justin. I am from Ridgewood, New Jersey. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm in the 2-year program.
Hi, my name is Nerija Rosemond. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am in the 3-year program for the 1-year residency program, which means I work full time and go to school. And I graduate May.
So working at NYU Silver, I get to hear so many stories about people's journey to NYU and into social work school. So what was your journey like, and how and why did you choose NYU?
Well, I could go. After applying I got into a position to become a case manager at a foster care agency, and I did it for a year to save up for medical school. But after getting a case, I was so indulged and I really liked the work, and my supervisor encouraged me to apply to social work school and get my master's if it's something I wanted to do. And when looking at different programs, I was very pleased by what NYU had to offer. I came to the orientations, and it was great. So I was like, I'm choosing NYU. This is where I have to go. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I was originally studying theater, and I was pursuing acting before I came to NYU for social work. I spent a few years after finishing undergrad just trying to do theater, and it's very different doing it professionally than it is doing it in school. So I just had a lot of questions about what kind of work I'd like to do. I thought about teaching for a while, and after just exploring very different kinds of jobs, some of them related to education, I learned about social work and clinical work, and that became really exciting for me. So that's when I started looking at social work schools.
I was in India. My first master's was in psychology. I was conducting a research in a prison in India post my master's, and that's where I got interested in the system level issues, and I started looking into social work schools. But unfortunately, India doesn't have a regulatory body for social work. It's not as professionalized as it's here in the US. So I was visiting the US, attending a couple of workshops in psychodrama, and there I met a lot of social workers who were working in the prison setting using drama therapy. So they encouraged me to pursue a degree in social work. And I chose NYU because of how diverse it is, the student body is, the opportunities it has, and the resources. And also the people here were so warm. They were just so willing to answer my questions. Like, it's really tough when you're coming from a different country to here, and you're like, you don't know what the culture is, you don't know how the education system is, but they were really helpful. That's what swooned me. Yeah.
Well, my journey was a little different. I went to Queens College. I majored in human development and family studies. And I was like, okay, I'm getting this bachelor's and I'm done. I'm going to look for a job. And my professors was like, they think that I should pursue going for my master's. And I was like, I'm not sure. But at the last minute, I decided I applied to a couple schools, and I chose NYU because they had the extended program. And that really spoke to me because going back to school a little later in life, I still had to work, still had responsibilities, and I felt like the extended program allowed me to still work while going to school at the same time, because the first year you're not really in placement. You're just taking 2 classes in the fall, 2 in the spring, 2 in the summer. And then the second year, that's when they started working you into placement, and I only had to do 15 hours, so I was still able to work. And then I also was able to go to school during the summer. So I think it just really fit into what I needed. So that's what I chose.
Yeah, I was similar to Justin. I was also a career changer coming from an art background. So I have my BFA in dance performance. And then I moved to New York after dancing professionally for a few years and found that it was quite different than any other space I'd ever been in. So I started volunteering with LGBTQ homeless youth, and I sort of just fell in love with the work. And then I met a lot of social workers, and they were like, I think you want to be a social worker. What you're saying to me sounds like social work. So I started looking at programs, and NYU was, of course, a choice. I wasn't ready to leave New York, but also to be so close to this Mecca, especially so close to a queer Mecca, being in this area of the city felt really important to me, and the diversity of the campus. And also just the ability to work within the clinical and the macro setting, I think, is something that NYU does really well. Even still being a clinical program, it offers the ability to kind of fluctuate between both settings, which I really appreciated, and that's what drew me to the school.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I loved hearing that about kind of where you all came from and how you all ended up around the table with here. Kind of want to dive into more about the programs that you're in. I know a couple of you are all in different programs. So how has the experience been in the particular pathway you chose, whether that's extended, the one-year residency, or the 2-year program?
I can go first. So I'm basically in the 2-year program, but it's 5 semesters. Since I'm an international student, I have the option of not going to field in the first semester and starting my internship in the second semester. That helped me in a way to transition to the new culture and environment, and I didn't have to be pushed into the field where I wouldn't know what to do and not to do. So with that, what happened is that I had to take classes in the summer semester. Most of my classes were with 16-month programmers, and that was a good experience. It was all bunched up, but it was good. Yeah.
So for me, I think what the extended program did was allow me to take my time. You know, kind of going back to school a little later in life, I only had to take 2 classes, which I felt was manageable while I was working. And it also gave me time to think about what my second year placement was going to be, instead of like coming in and maybe just having to like dive right in. So I think for me, it was like being able to focus on my studies, take my time. For me, that allowed me to get better grades. So I think that was what was important for me.
I think for me, I chose the 2-year program because I wanted to get in and do the work and just like work, and then get out and get into the field. I think especially being a career changer, it felt important for me to get in and get it done. And so, yeah, the 2-year program has been quite rigorous. I was working a job before this and I had to quit, and that was a personal choice that I made. But it seemed like it has worked the best for me. And then being able to have the summer off has been a time for me to like really take care of myself and rejuvenate. That way I can hit it hard again when the fall begins.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, like Shana, it really allowed me to take my time, being that I work full time, and that there was a program where I could do my internship at my job. My last year, I don't have to do 2 years of internship because I am in the field already. So taking the classes and being in the field, it was like doing internship, but comparing myself to like before. So that was comparing myself to before I knew the knowledge of social work being in school. So that's something that I appreciated about the journey. Like I said, 1 year of internship. So the fact that I could intern exactly where I work, that made it so much more convenient. And that's what I enjoyed about the program.
Yeah, I'm in the 2-year program as well. And I was working before school started. I had a part-time job that I was working at quite a bit as a tutor, basically. And the nice thing was it works really well with a grad school schedule. I've kind of been setting myself up for grad school for the past few years. So it is possible to work while in grad school, even as a 2-year program student. It just sort of depends on the type of work you're doing and how you make it work with your schedule. but yeah, I think like Leah, I was ready to sort of just dive in and try to, you know, get it all together, get it all going, so that, you know. Yeah.
Your answer is actually perfectly transitioned into a question from the audience from Rebecca Weddick. She specifically asked, and so I know you'll have touched on this, so maybe you could expand on your answers about, for those of you who are full-time students, how did you take on part-time jobs or work-study jobs? And if so, what was your experience been in school, your field placement, balancing school, field placement, and work?
Yeah, so I guess I can just add another quick detail. So I work as a tutor, and I've been doing it the entire time I've been in the program. You know, it's a job I had been at for a couple years before I started school, so I was already familiar with the company where I work. There's several tutoring companies within New York City, so that's one avenue into part-time work, and it's been a really good experience. I mean, that job is part of the reason I was really interested in social work, because there was a mental health consultant at the company, and by speaking to her, you know, I kind of had an idea of what grad school could look like for me. So I've also spoken to people, you know, with different kinds of part-time work that are, you know, more traditional, just, you know, you come in, you do your shift, and you leave wherever that may be. So there are ways to balance it. It can be very, very busy and tiring, but you do what you can and you make it work for you.
I worked at NYU Steinhardt Liberty Partnerships program. It was an on-campus job. It's still an on-campus job, but they kind of let me prioritize my school first. So I did have some days at work, but it was like 2 out of 5 days, and they would let me take off if I had papers coming up or finals coming up, but it was still manageable. They do let you be flexible if you're working on campus. It's definitely doable. Yeah.
So we're going to kind of shift into placement. So can you tell us a little bit about your current placements? Where are you placed? What does sort of a typical day in the field look like for you? Yeah.
So did you want to?
Yeah, I'll start. It's very interesting being 1 year residence in a 1 year residence program, because I've been working there for, this year is going to make it 5 years, but it's like now I have 2 part-time jobs there. So it's like right now I'm doing therapy I have 4 clients. I'm doing direct psychotherapy. And then I'm also doing, I'm starting up a program with parents and in the foster care system, like helping parents who have children in the foster care system. So it's like both macro and micro work that I'm doing for my internship, and then I have my own job. So it's like honestly just managing and making schedules, and also being very firm and going to supervision and letting them know my needs, how to do it, how to not do it. It can get a little difficult at times, like managing both things, but that's what field looks like for me. 1 year residence.
Sure, I'll go.
Not all at once.
My field placement is at Gaiman's Health Crisis, and I provide individual and group psychotherapy to folks living with HIV and AIDS. So a typical day for me is having somewhere between 2 to 3 individual 45-minute sessions with clients, writing case notes afterwards, which takes up some time, and then also one day a week facilitating a group for long-term survivors. So it's mostly clinical work, but in addition to that, I'm also getting some opportunities to do something a little bit more macro and program development, and I think that's something that a lot of agencies are open to, and hopefully starting a trans mental health group at my placement too. So I'll get to then do the clinical work, but first look at it from a program development standpoint and developing a curriculum and really looking at all the things that go into making a successful group within an agency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to be doing something similar in my agency with groups starting next semester. I work at CASES, Center for Alternative Sentencing and Employment Services. That's an agency in Brooklyn that serves individuals involved with the criminal justice system. My department specifically in the agency deals with young people, 15 to 24 years of age. And typical day at the agency is a lot of case management. So we we have clients coming in all day, and we do individual 30-minute sessions with them or 45-minute sessions with them, depending on their case. And then there's this twice a week substance abuse group that takes place that I co-lead with my coworker. And we also connect them with resources within the agency, because it's a pretty big agency and we have different departments, and also with external resources regarding employment, education, but basically it's a lot of case coordination.
So this year I am at an outpatient mental health clinic. They're part of community counseling and mediation, which is an agency that operates throughout Manhattan and Brooklyn. So this year my typical day is meeting with individual clients for one-on-one therapy and writing progress notes, case notes after each session. I also have to write treatment plans in collaboration with clients, and I have to sometimes do intake assessments. So those are all part of like the typical responsibilities, and there are opportunities for groups, whether it is to facilitate or to observe groups at the clinic. So that's the gist of what happens there. It's very different. Last year I was doing something that was much more what we would probably call case management. So that was working with clients and just trying to make sure they have access to the services they need, rather than providing them directly the way I do now.
And sort of just jumping off of that, in what ways do you all think that you've grown since your previous year's placement or Nerija in before grad school, like throughout your career?
I've definitely grown. A lot of people are in the social service field and feel like they know so much about the social service field, but being in this program, you learn so much on the micro, meso, macro level, and you start to literally apply it to the work that you do. You also, the clinical skills that you learn here, you apply in all situations. So I did case management. You can do case management clinically as well. There's a way to do that, and I've learned that being in the program, and how it has shifted the way I think and the way I deal with things. Also self-care, you learn more about self-care being in the program, and how the way you show up directly affects your work and how you work with the client. So that's definitely something those are the things that I learned being in the program.
I think for me, being in the program, it kind of pushes you to think about things that you haven't thought about before. Even at my placement, working with kids, I didn't have any clinical experience working with kids. And, when you work with adolescents, like, you're tapping into their emotions. So that's something that was really new for me. Because kids, a lot of times they'll say I'm angry, and anger is a secondary emotion. So you have to teach them that it's usually anger, but there's a whole bunch of other emotions at the bottom. So kind of learning from that perspective, and just kind of understanding what populations you're interested in working with and you're not. So I think being able to do two different types of placements really prepares you for when you leave to say, okay, I'm more comfortable with this population, or I want to work with this population. So that's what it did for me.
I think NYU also does a really good job of providing placements for your first year that lead into a second year. So I think most first year students do a case management internship, which really teaches you about the systems that are at play that affect our clients. And then after you've gained a year of clinical experience, then you get to have more in-depth interactions with the clients. And then I think it's easier then to relate and connect with them, because you have a better understanding of the systems at play that oppress our clients. And then we can learn how we can empower them from a more emotional and like intellectual level. But I think to get there, you have to understand the more macro, which I think that they do really well with having that be more of your first year and then leading into something that's a little bit more clinical in the second year placement.
And even within a case management setting, there were plenty of opportunities to interact with the people I was working with and provide what was still clinical work. So it wasn't, it's not so separated, it's part of it. But yeah, you're also on top of that navigating the systems that the clients themselves, or the patients themselves are constantly grappling with their own day-to-day. Yeah.
And they all come together. Like, you can't sometimes do one without the other.
Right.
So that's the important part of it.
I think they build upon each other.
Right.
The responsibilities increase, and you just find yourself to be more skilled
Right.
in the second year placement.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have a clear population or a setting in mind when you started? And if you did, awesome. And if you didn't, how did you find that?
Well, I can speak to that. So my population is working with the elderly population. It's always been my first love. You know, at 18 years old, I worked at the Jewish Home and Hospital with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. So I really had a lot of experience early on. And even coming at NYU, I was like, you know, I'm going to work with seniors. And my first year, I was lucky to have a placement with seniors. So yeah, for me, it was always seniors. The forgotten population, as they say sometimes. So
I knew I wanted to work with the criminal justice systems, but I didn't know that I would like working with adolescents as much as I do now. It's my first agency that I found that I really like working with young people. And that's why I'm here now in my second agency working with adolescents.
Yeah, I worked with I worked in supportive housing my first year. So population was generally homeless or formerly homeless with severe mental illness. And yeah, I can't say that was a population that I was, particularly drawn to coming into social work school, but I'm really grateful for the experience, and it really taught me a lot, and I think set myself up really well for the work I'm doing now, which is, I guess, just a broader, more varied, assortment of backgrounds in terms of, the clients I'm working with, as well as their diagnoses. So yeah, I think I was originally just interested in like the one-on-one therapy style, but having worked in supportive housing, it all ties together. Just having learned about the systems, having learned about mental health in a completely different way, it made what I'm doing now like just much richer. There's a lot more context to it. So I think I'm on this journey just trying to learn about all the populations right now. So this has been a great way to do it.
Yeah, I would say for me, I came in, I work in foster care at JCCA. It's a foster care agency in Brooklyn, and I knew I wanted to work. I work in foster care because before that I worked at ACS for a little bit, and so I thought like child welfare in the capacity of foster care is what I wanted to do. But being here in the program, I learned that you can do so much more with social work. So especially not only one-to-one clinical things that you can do, there's so much impact you can have doing macro work as well. So that's definitely something that has changed since being in the program.
I think knew right when I was coming in that I wanted to work with the LGBTQ population, and I had done that for the year before graduate school, and then my first placement was working with LGBTQ youth. And for a moment there, I felt sort of like, am I pigeonholing myself? Am I only working with this really specific population? But then through talking with friends and mentors and professors, it was like, if you know that this is a population you want to work with, why not just specialize in that? And so I think that if you're coming into this program and you have an idea, like I really want to work with the elderly, or if I really want to work with youth or something like that, like to trust that gut instinct, to know that, if you have a passion that lies in something, that it's okay to feel like you can just follow that. Of course, also, it's good to explore other types of communities and other bases, but I think if you really want to do something, trusting that gut instinct is really important.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see, I'm just looking for another question here. I was wondering if anyone has participated in a study abroad program. Can you tell us a little bit about where you went, what kind of population you studied, and if you had it, and what kind of your experience was specifically as a social worker in learning about these different approaches?
Well, I went to China in May of this year. I was there for 2 weeks. So it doesn't have to be a full semester. It could be a shorter time for the study abroad. And the class was basically studying social work in China. focusing on adolescent and children populations. So we learned about social work in China, which is so much different from here in the United States. It's very, very community-based. It's like one social worker for a whole community, but it works, and the impact, and you saw it. So we went to different agencies across China. So we went to Shanghai at first, then we went to Guangzhou, then we went to Yan Village, and then we went to Chengdu. In 2 weeks, we were up and down in planes. It was tiring, but it was such a great experience because I got to understand China from being in China, not what you hear here. And it's completely different. And it's the things that I learned there, could be implemented here. It doesn't just have to be so individualistic. I feel like social work and the way it's practiced here in the United States could be very individualistic, but that community work and like seeing it firsthand, how it's done there. And like you bring some of that back into the way you practice as well when you work with different populations or different cultures. And cultural competency is something that was tested while we were there as well. Being uncomfortable to grow, definitely, because it was very uncomfortable, like the day-to-day living, the bathrooms are different, the food is different and stuff like that. So just being uncomfortable to get better is what I gained mostly from that experience. Yeah.
I was in the Tel Aviv J-term class last year, so that was in January. You can take these shorter electives, and some of them are offered abroad. So I did one in Tel Aviv that was about 10 days, and the focus was the children of substance-using parents. So not just kids, like adult children as well, and tracking their life course and what it's like to grow up in a house with parents or a parent or parents that may use substances, and seeing what that does to a child's development. And so we were learning about that topic, you know, as it relates to American families and culture. But then we were in Israel, so learning about what that looks like in Israel at the same time, and meeting with Israeli social workers and hearing from the head of, I think, the Department of Health there, or some contingent of it. And we also visited a therapeutic community in Tel Aviv and learned about what that looks like, which was also very community oriented. So yeah, it was great because we were learning about the topic, you know, using this American backdrop, but learning about it in this completely different country and actively comparing the two countries and their social work styles. So it gave it a lot more dimensions, and it was also just a really, really great, like, I don't know, team building venture with other students. So there was a lot there that, you know, made a really big impact, even though it was a relatively short time.
Can you both tell me a little bit more about the community aspect of that? What was it like how big were the cohorts going to China and Israel? What kind of ways did you bond or connect? What was your relationship with your professors like in this totally different setting?
Yeah, so in China, so when we went to Yan Village, it's a very rural area, and it was 6 of us in a room at one point when we got to the village. So we got off the plane. We get to Yan Village. It's a long ride from the plane to Yan Village, so you're with your professor all the time. So you get to know the professor on a personal basis, and also she encouraged us to go out after class and after visits to like get to know China and get to see China. So after coming from class and going out in the community and just like seeing how people are like that, it made the experience a little bit different than just going on vacation and visiting someplace. It was just so much more educational, but fun at the same time. We definitely got to bond with our professors and with a group of people. I think it was like 12 of us that went to China. I don't remember exactly, but when we were in Yan Village, it was just such a culture shock for most people. I grew up I'm Haitian as well, so I'm used to rural areas. But everyone was just like, oh my God, the bugs, the trees, this and that. And even for me, it was a little like, oh my God, like, this is a little crazy. But still at the same time, it was great. We went hiking with our professor and we got to see the community and how after a devastating earthquake in Yan Village, how they were able to rebuild, but how the rebuilding wasn't the best for the people there, and how social workers are helping the people learn, adjust to that development. So it was just a great experience overall, but like I said, very challenging.
For sure.
Yeah, in terms of the community, it was very similar where we were on a first name basis with our professors. I think there was about 16 people in our group, and we got to know each other very well. And when we weren't in class, we were encouraged to spend time in Tel Aviv. And we also had I think a day and a half in Jerusalem. And our professors also organized some day trips for us the days that we weren't in class. So there was a lot offered and a lot we could take advantage of in that short time. And everyone got to know each other really, really quickly. And we had some really, really unique experiences together. We went to a play that all the performers in it were blind or deaf. Oh, wow. And it was a really incredible performance. And then afterwards, we had dinner in like the pitch black darkness to sort of simulate what it's like to not have one of your senses. And yeah, that was definitely like a very powerful and fun. Like, honestly, it was very fun, because it was completely novel. Yeah. But it also was like, eye-opening. Right. No, yeah. in the figurative sense. So yeah, but things like that, really, really made a mark and brought us together in a way that I think, you don't necessarily see in just your typical semester-long classes.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And just to really speak to that, I think for me, like I applied for the J term this year, and I think if I could look back, I would definitely say to students to definitely do a study abroad. I wish I had applied earlier, but I think it's definitely a great thing to like just kind of, it's different to see things on television, but when you're immersed in it, you get such a better like reality of what things are like. So hopefully I get into the Argentina, so we'll see, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
Yeah, and that is something that's so cool about NYU. NYU is truly a global university, and that we have all of these centers in every inhabitable continent. Antarctica is not happening yet, sorry. Although now I'm wondering what social work looks like in Antarctica, but that's another conversation. You really do get to have this experience. And for those listening, you also have students also have the option of cross-registering with other graduate schools. So if you're really interested in how higher education works in India, or how I know some programs are in food insecurity in El Salvador through other schools at NYU. You have all of these locations in addition to these 6 different countries that Silver can take you. As a reminder, also, we are, audience, if you are listening, I know you are, come send in questions. You can either send them through direct messages to the NYU Silver Facebook page, or you can write them right in the comments, and you might hear your answer on the air.
Yeah, talking of cross-registration, even if you don't want to go to another country, you can still take classes in other schools here. Mm-hmm. I'm taking a psychodrama class in NYU Steinhardt, and that's been really amazing.
How has that been? Tell me more. I'm so curious about that class.
So psychodrama is a part of drama therapy, basically. So you have all these experiential techniques. So you get together in a group. It's basically a group exercise, and you do a warm-up. Then you choose a protagonist from the group, and then you create a drama around an event from their life. And then you analyze it and share it. And it's a very cathartic experience. Yeah. And I'm going to join next semester too, so I'll have enough number of hours to use those techniques in my practice as a social worker.
Oh, cool. Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
I know. Thanks, NYU.
What has been a favorite elective or course that you've taken here at NYU?
Yeah. I think in addition to the one I did abroad, there was a 4-day intensive I did over the summer about critical analysis of psychotherapy theories, which was, it was like a really in-depth look at different therapeutic models And especially, preparing for my second year internship, it was really, really helpful to think about all the different ways we can work with our clients in terms of interventions, but also the different models and how they use different levels to like in terms of just like micro versus macro. Some of them had more of a macro focus than others. So just seeing what therapy can look like, not just between two people, but in a larger sense, that was really, really valuable information. And because it was summertime, it wasn't in my placement at the time, I could really just devote my mental energy to that class. And it was just a really incredible experience. Just, learned so much in just those 4 days alone.
I would say for me, diversity, racism, oppression, and prejudice, which is called DROP, that was an eye-opening experience for me. It really, really is important. It was my favorite class here because it literally changed the way I view the world at large. I view people and I interact with people. I'm more conscious about the way I speak to people, about the way things are done, about understanding systems, besides just knowing what macro, meso, and micro is. That was just really just eye-opening for me. I took it during the summer. It was a little bit more intensive, and it was challenging for me because I wanted to challenge most of the things that I was hearing, and most of the things were not good to sit with. So just having, that was like one of my favorite classes here, and it goes into everything social work, literally.
Yeah, I would like to second that. Especially coming from a different country, I realized in my job class that racism looks different in every culture. Mm-hmm. So it was just a whole new perspective of how racism exists here and how privilege and oppression comes in play and how we are affected by people and affect people in return, and how we just need to be more aware of that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably going to third that. So that was probably my favorite class as well, because, we think we walk around navigating this world aware, but that class really made me aware of just, some of the prejudices I have, compared to other people, and just kind of understanding that, like, we can be, you can have someone that's from the Midwest who's never interacted with a person of color, and that's fine because that's their space. But I think it's important to educate yourself beyond that and not take like for face value what you see on television. It's just, to me, it's about like just educating yourself more and being more open because we're all different, so.
Yeah. I mean, I also loved DROP. Currently, I'm in a 3-credit elective called Sexual and Gender Minorities, Past, Present, and Future, and it is by far the best course I've taken in my life. It really examines sexual and gender minorities from the 1700s until now. And I think something really important to think about, especially working in an area like New York City, is most of our clients have intersecting identities. So how do their intersecting identities affect the amount of stress that they're under? How does that then affect what's happening with their mental health? Because we live in a world where we can't separate someone's gender identity from their race, from their sexual orientation. It all makes up who they are. So this class has really forced me to step outside of that and look at people through all of the systems that are affecting them. And I'm excited to do the work every single week. I'm excited to write the papers. It is by far the best class I've ever taken.
So what is it like a typical classroom environment? What does it feel like to be in a silver classroom?
I think depending on the class and the professor even, it can look so different, right? So there's some classes that come in and we're sitting in a circle and it feels almost like group therapy sometimes, and not just in the group therapy class. Like my practice 1 and 2 class, we usually sat in a circle, and that was a smaller class. We got to know each other very well. But then you have classes that are more typical, you sit in rows and you have a lecture, but even those are very discussion oriented. So I think discussion is pretty prominent in most classes, even ones that are more lecture heavy.
I think professors do a really nice job, at least the ones that I've had, of lecturing for a portion of the class, and then opening up the second half of the class for conversation. Because, there are a ton of theories and therapeutic modalities that we're learning. So like there's a lot of material, but then getting the opportunity to talk about how are we seeing this played out in our field practice. And I think that's something that's so special about the social work program is you're in field from the very beginning. So as you're like a little baby social worker emerging and learning these theories, you're then implementing those directly into your practice within the same week. So I think that the professors do a really great job of holding space for lecturing and then opening up for discussion too.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's been present in all of my classes has been small group activities. Like we get into smaller groups and then talk about a topic or discuss a paper and then come together and discuss it again. But I think, those activities just make the experience better.
And I will agree with that too. I think the most exciting thing for me about learning is like just also learning from other people, like kind of sitting in a classroom and, you're sharing your ideas and someone else is sharing your ideas. And, I've always believed that we all can learn from each other. It doesn't matter like what it is, so I think kind of just being in a classroom, being able to share and other people sharing, just learning from their experiences for me.
Yeah, sure. I think in a classroom, you can ask any and everything, no matter. I feel like most professors I have always held that space for anyone's question, anything they have to say. So not to be too intimidated by that, because my first semester here, I was just like, should I ask that? Should I not? But then them allowing that space, it's really not a safe space, but a space where you can say whatever, ask whatever.
Let's see. So moving sort of outside of the classroom, are any of you part of any student groups? And if so, which ones are they? And tell us a little bit about how you're involved.
So we're all champions.
This is true. All champions, which are.
So we're all silver champions. I don't know how to explain it directly, but we basically tell people about Silver School of Social Work at NYU. And we do events like this, we do panels.
If any of you are any prospective student or admitted student can silver.champions@nyu.edu, and I will pair you directly with someone who has as much in common with you as possible. So based on what kind of program you want to be in, having similar interests in the field, a similar background, similar hometown. I do my best to kind of, try to overlap you and connect you with someone who is going to kind of help you navigate, maybe help you see what your experience at Silver is going to be like. Silver's, we have a huge, I think, range of folks coming through. And so I do my best to have the Champions program to represent that. And also thank you all so much for being awesome here. So beyond Champions, anything else that you're involved in?
Student Leadership Council is something I did last year and I'm doing this year again, which is basically we help with the cohorts of the new students coming in, like just to create a community. And we help with orientation. We check in on each other and stuff like that. It's a great way to get to know people on campus, because with graduate school, I feel like people are more in and out, especially with placement. Everybody's so busy or whatever, but it helps to create a community. I'm also part of Black Women in Social Work Coalition, which is a student-led group on campus. And it's basically a space for Black women, but not only Black women, for all people we come and we educate on how it is to be a Black woman, navigating it at NYU in the social work space, and not only for Black women, but most minority groups on campus. And then I'm part of a fellowship on campus, the Social Sector Leadership Development Program, which is part of the leadership initiative on campus, which is basically a 18-month program where they teach you about the social sector leadership, how to do leadership. There's a lot of career development We meet every month. There was a free 3-day orientation. We went to DC, and you basically apply for that actual program. So those are the things I'm part of on campus. And I work full time, and I'm able to do it. So you can do it.
So you have lots of free time.
I'm actually a graduate student leader. So what's different with that is, like, as a graduate student leader, you're able to connect with other schools. And I think that was important for me because, yes, I'm in the Silver School of Social Work, but it's nice to meet other students, like students from Wagner, students from Steinhardt. And like in the fall and the spring, they have like all these great events. Because I remember coming my first semester and just being super anxious. So I think being able to give back to students when they come in and it's like their first semester, a lot of them first time in New York, and they're like, they don't know what to expect. Kind of just giving them a sense of relief, like, it's okay, these are some of the things that I did, and there's like a lot of great activities. So they'll have like a welcome grad brunch that I was a part of. There was an international student mixer. So there's just like a lot of events that you can be a part of. You know, they had grads walk the Brooklyn Bridge. So it's just, you know, not only do you get like free tickets, but you also get to like network with a lot of other people as well. So I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, I attend there's a peer support group that meets every week, and I go to there's a Monday and a Thursday meeting. So I've been going to the Thursday ones, and it's what it sounds like. It's just basically a support group for people going to NYU Silver in any of the programs, and it's just another chance, another place to speak to anything that's going on with you at the program, whether it's at placement, whether it's in the school, whether it's outside of school, it's in your personal life. So it's just another space for students to come together, to build community, and to support each other. And so I really recommend being involved with that. You know, it's drop in. You don't have to like sign up. You can come whenever you can or whenever you want to. I also participate in the Student Leadership Council. So that involves other volunteering and professional development opportunities. And this year I'll be officially joining the Phi Alpha Honor Society. So so Shana, that's exciting. So I think if you have a 3.9 GPA, you can join the Honor Society and also pursue other volunteer and professional development opportunities as well. And the last thing I'll say is I ran for the Graduate Student Association my first year as a first-year representative. It was a particularly competitive year. So some other lovely people are in the position, but I just mentioned it because it's a great association, and I was really happy people were really interested. It's a chance to sort of oversee things that happen within our program. So if you're interested in some leadership positions, the Graduate Student Association, the GSA, is a great thing to look into. And at the end of orientation, at some point during orientation, there's a chance to like basically attend a club fair or an extracurriculars fair and learn about all the groups that are going to be, running that particular year at Silver.
Yeah, I was able to be a part of sort of a new group that was created, sort of coming out of this assignment in a macro class that one of my colleagues is in, that you could choose to do a community organizing project in lieu of a paper. So they decided to start this sort of project and asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. So it's called the Silver Trans Student Collective, which is a way also for me as a more micro-clinical student to get some macro and advocacy work. So what we're doing is we're looking to point out disparities within the student health center, specifically for students of trans experience. So we're getting to go around to the classrooms within Silver and do some advocacy, really like some grassroots work of talking to students, not only about giving them an opportunity to name their oppression, but also talking about practicing allyship within the classroom. And then through this, we've been able to write a resolution, which we're presenting to the Faculty and Student Senate. So it's a great opportunity to do something outside of the classroom that's going to directly affect the work, but it's not necessarily like a part of field or a part of classes. And it's been one of the most fulfilling parts of this year for me.
Most people don't know, but NYU also has a union. I'm part of the Graduate Student Union at NYU. I'm the union steward for Silver. People who work on campus have rights and benefits. And if you are working On campus, you can get your insurance waived. You only pay 10% of your insurance, and a lot of people don't know that. Yeah, so so that's as part of the union. We do weekly meetings. We get together, do walkthroughs, and make people aware of the benefits they have as an employee at NYU. I'm also a part of the student standing committee, which basically takes cases from students, like if anybody's behaving unethically or if there's an issue in the school regarding unprofessionalism. So we take those cases and then. I'm also on that. Oh, okay, you're also on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have about 10 minutes left. So audience members, if you want to submit your questions, now is your chance. But I do kind of want to end, starting the last question, end on what is one piece of advice that you have for a prospective social work student? You can think on that.
I would say make friends.
Yeah.
I think it's just really helpful to have friends in your program. It seems kind of obvious, but just put yourself out there, and in whatever way feels good, to do. And I guess that's a bit cliche, but it really makes a difference. And your practice class, your first year, it's the same group of people for both semesters, which is a unique track, I guess, here at Silver. So that's a great place to really get to know some of your peers really, really well. So I guess take advantage of that experience, because that group will really support you throughout your first year placement. So that first day of orientation, just introduce yourself. You never know who you're going to see later.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Make friends. Like Shana and I met at orientation in 2017, and she's like a great friend now. And we encourage each other when it gets hard, when it gets rough. I know I can call Shana, but definitely build a community of people who are in social work school, because others will think you're crazy sometimes, or be like, not think you're crazy, but think like they can't relate to what you're going through. So definitely building that community, and I think NYU gives you that opportunity. You just like I forgot your name. Justin said, I'm horrible with names. Like Justin said, just put yourself out there in whatever way you feel comfortable. You don't have to force yourself to do more than you need to do, and just make friends. I think that's definitely one piece of advice I would give.
I would say, to agree as well, to definitely network. Networking is very important. I mean, I learned that in undergrad, and it still rings true today. I would say, and definitely self-care. I think self-care wasn't something that I thought about. Like, it was just, but definitely being in social work school, I feel like you definitely have to carve out time for yourself, and I when I think of self-care, I think of like a shelf. Obviously the top shelf might be that vacation. You can't reach that shelf all the time, but maybe like the bottom shelf might be going to yoga or reading a book, So I think that's really important to like incorporate coming into social work school, because some of this stuff is heavy. Like, let's not pretend like it's not, but kind of leaving space for you to like digress sometimes is important. I would definitely leave with that.
Yeah, I think establishing a self-care routine before you get into social work school is really important, because then it's just already a part of your nature. It's something that you already incorporate into your week. And I think learning the difference too between things that you do to self-soothe when you're having, when you had a really stressful day, and then things that are actually restorative, like self-care, and getting a shelf and
Right.
having that be in abundance, so that you can, if this doesn't work, then you have this tool and this tool and this tool and this tool, and reach out to your friends and ask them how they self-care, and just kind of like build your Rolodex of self-care activities and ways to really nourish and rejuvenate yourself, so that you can show up and do the work.
Yeah, and building on that, taking advantage of the resources NYU has. I mean, social work school does have a lot of clubs and student groups and resources for you, but even outside of NYU, like other departments, International Student Council, or the Wellness Center, they have resources for you where you can like take counseling services. OGS, Wasserman Center, they all have different events, free food, trips around the city that you can go to. And also there's so many events taking place on campus every single day that you can network and find opportunities to make friends.
All right, so we have a question from the audience. Can you speak a little bit about job readiness and professional development? What has NYU done to prepare you for a job post MSW?
Well, I would say, just like anything else for me, some of it is doing the work yourself. But the Wasserman Center is amazing. A lot of times they'll go to specific schools and have like resume writing help, cover letter help. You can, make an appointment and go into the Wasserman Center, and so that they can help you with your resume and maybe help you how to search for jobs. So if you're not maybe the type of person that's able to do it on your own, the Wasserman Center definitely has a lot of resources to kind of help support what you don't know.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a shout out to Sonia Bansali.
Yes,
we have Solar CPD here. So
what is CPD?
Career and professional
Awesome.
development.
Yes.
So we have our own workshops and trainings and resume and cover letter drop-ins where we could go in after class, just go in for an hour, just talk to Sonia for a while. She'll give you tips on how to make better cover letters, how to up to your resume, and also help you find resources that you can connect with and find jobs outside.
I also just think social work school for grad school is so demanding that being able, it teaches you a lot about how to manage your time, because not only are you in class and in field, you're writing papers and you're doing process recordings and you're caring for yourself and you maybe are working and you're doing all these things. So maybe this is naive of me, but I'm kind of just assuming anything's going to be easier than graduate school. We'll be able to do what comes next because we've already had these really rigorous years of school. So I hope I'm right.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also part of that is that you are in the field, right? You are doing the job.
Yes, so your field placements, I don't have field, but you could always add that onto your resume, whatever you did at field placement. So that's definitely a way to start building for professional development, and also making those connections at field placement, because the social work field, social workers are very intertwined. So just making that connection and also networking, even at field placement, even with your other coworkers that are there while you're at your internship, I think is part of
and basically talking to each other too, So my first year placement, my supervisor, well, when you graduate, call me. That's an important thing to know. So you're like, okay, well, maybe I have one opportunity, when I'm done. But I think when you talk to each other, we share information, because Nerija might say, oh, my job is hiring, send me your resume. So I think it's really important to continue to build those networks.
I've done a lot of workshops at Silver, and since I'm a student here, even at Silver and Steinhardt, I've been offered free workshops that were for $500, $800 for free. And through those workshops, I've made so many networks that I've been offered jobs even when I was in my first year. When you graduate, come back and, you can work with us. So that's a plus. Look for opportunities around.
And NYU also, the Graduate Student Association, they're in charge of organizing a full day of professional development called Common Day. So for each class, the first year's class and the second year class and the other programs as well, there's a day that's dedicated to professional development and topics related to that. So that's a chance to learn more about what it's going to be like after graduation, to learn about topics of interest. This year, the focus was social justice and self-care. So they had speakers come in and speak to different components of both of those areas. So even within NYU itself, there are lots of, professional development opportunities built into your education, without you having to seek them out elsewhere.
So last question. Gabby coming in from the audience asks, how would you describe the community at the NYU Silver School, and would you say that extracurriculars help build that sense of community, or inherently comes with being a part of the Silver School?
Both?
Hand in hand. It's for some people, it might come naturally to them to network and to make friends. But for some people, they may need to slowly, crawl into it. So I think, again, me and Nerija met, our first year. So we sat and talked and we, built a connection. So I think it goes both hand in hand.
Definitely hand in hand. And even though I made connections my first year, I literally was just going to class and going to work, and that was it. But then slowly, like Shana said, slowly I started to put myself out there the way I felt comfortable, and then I built community. Not only building the community, the people I were around, it's oh, what you heard about this club? Why don't you join? Oh, you heard about this? And then you go to the space and you're like, oh, why not? It's not that bad. And you build that community. So that's basically what it was for me, because I felt like when I was coming in, because I'm working, I'm in school, I'm like, everybody else has so much free time, and I don't have the time. But no, I did actually have some of the time to be in that community. So it definitely goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think you get what you put in. So the time you put into the people around you, that's what you're going to generally get back. So I guess that goes back to my earlier, what we were talking about before, as far as just introducing yourself to people. The community is there, but you need to sort of, I don't know. Yeah, just go out there and be part of it.
Yeah, I think the more initiative you take and more actively you're involved with communities, like even the Student Leadership Council or Silver Champions, it's you get that sense of community by being a part of something that you're contributing to your school. Yeah, you feel useful and giving back.
And I know me and Nerija know each other, but even before, kind of just meeting other people, now we may exchange numbers after. And so you're continuously building networks, whether you believe it, you realize it or not. So.
Sure. All right, so we are right at 7 o'clock. Thank you all so much for speaking with us today, answering questions. I feel like I learned so much about the program, and I loved hearing your stories and how they sort of all interwove with one another. I want to thank our audience as well for listening in. For folks who are looking for a caption version of this, we will have that linked on YouTube in about 48 hours or so. If you have any additional questions, you can email silver.admissions, and admissions is plural, at nyu.edu. For admitted students, you can join the Facebook page, and that is with, I think all of these people are in the group.
Yes.
I know there was a question about favorite professors, and I swear I think half that group is folks exchanging information about favorite professors, favorite classes and stuff. So if you are looking to register for classes and stuff, that information is there. The Facebook group is such a wealth of knowledge.
Join it.
And if you want to talk to any of us, again, silver.admissions@NYU. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye.